Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says Dr. Ryan Stewart comes to New Mexico with a track record of success in getting good programs to work in struggling schools. Mr. Stewart is not yet 40 years old, but convinced the governor that New Mexico can improve its schools if it can find a way to replicate successful programs in the classroom across the state. Our Line Opinion panelists are here to offer their thoughts and insight on this issue and others. We welcome Line regular Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group Public Relations. Merritt Allen, she's here, owner and executive director of Vox Optima LLC. Also with us is Laura Sanchez-Rivey, another Line regular and director of government relations at Affirm. I love that outfit there. And for the final time before he and his wife head off for a teaching gig in Beirut, Harry Van Buren, professor at the Anderson School of Management at UNM. Thank you all for being here. And Harry, thank you for coming in especially. Now, Tom, we spoke to the governor this week, and one of her points was that New Mexico has some exceptional schools out there doing really well in some good programs, but replicating them is going to be a huge issue. And our new secretary-designate agrees. What's your sense of that? Do we have something to build on here that this fella can work with?
Well, what I like about the new secretary-designate is that he has experience in turnaround schools,
right?
Turnaround school districts. He's also a classroom teacher, specializing in science and algebra. So he understands teachers, he understands administration, and it appears anyway through his work through nonprofits in both the West Coast and East Coast that he knows how to connect with people, which is really going to be a key thing. This is a position that he has to be successful at for Governor Lujan Grisham. The first bite of the apple did not go so well, and none of us knew that anything was wrong. Right. So I think that he has nowhere to go but up. We have 33% proficiency in English, 20% proficiency in math. I think there are some great best practices in New Mexico that he could work off of, but I think it's really an opportunity for him to come in and say, what's going to work? Here's what has worked for me. Let's see how we can apply that here.
Good point there. Laura Sanchez-Rivey, Stanford, Harvard, he's got a lot of good cred behind him. The teaching in the classroom thing, some people get hung up on that thing. Does that mean a lot to you, the amount of teaching in the classroom? Does that mean something?
It does. To me personally, I think it's important to have somebody who has that experience behind them. The previous designate, the previous secretary was didn't come from a current educator role in K through 12. So at the time that she was appointed, it was a little bit surprising, I think, for some, because she was in a position at NMSU where she was overseeing some programs. She definitely had the credentials, but she wasn't a current superintendent. She wasn't a current teacher. Didn't have sort of the school system experience that others had. And so that was a little bit surprising. I think one thing for me, it's good that he has that experience as a former math teacher. He obviously has the credentials. I think it's important that he's young, he has good ideas, but he also says that he wants to listen.
Right.
And that's important, I think, for somebody coming in from another state. You can't come in guns blazing when you haven't really spent time in New Mexico and gotten to know the lay of the land.
Exactly right. Merritt, Laura mentioned an interesting point about his career arc. What really caught my eye is something Mimi Stewart talked about actually in the paper the other day, in that East Palo Alto, you're familiar with that area where he worked in the classroom, 80% of the student body, English was not their first language. And so that's an interesting, Mimi Stewart said, that's actually a very positive thing for us here, that he's naturally inclined to see the situation we have here. Does that make sense to you as well, that kind of background?
Oh, absolutely. I think Secretary-Designate Stewart's background looks great, and everyone in New Mexico, I only want him to be successful.
Right.
But for the events that have led up to his nomination or appointment, I feel kind of played. I feel played because, I don't know, another governor, a female Hispanic governor facing an abysmal school system, brought in an out-of-state person to be education secretary, and she paid for it every day in the media and politically, being called everything but a child of God. And so I kind of feel like, did this guy just pop up in the last 3 weeks? Or is this something you wanted to do all along, but you knew for optics? Let's get somebody local.
Right.
Let
me ask you on that. Speaking of optics, was it that important to have this man in place before the first day of school? Does it really make that big of a difference? And in your mind, did that actually kind of hasten a decision here, possibly?
No, I think it had to happen in the interregnum between legislative sessions, so he has time to put some points on the board when he goes up for his confirmation hearings.
There you go. Good point there. Harry, your initial thoughts on what you see here? You're an educator. Backgrounds are tricky.
Right.
People can look good on paper.
Look good on paper.
Right. And we know this man has success. So
Yeah. I do have some concerns, though. I think he brings a lot of energy and a lot of good ideas, but he hasn't been a superintendent.
Right.
He hasn't supervised a big school district. In New Mexico, the educational environment is very, very complicated. We have urban and rural schools. The ways we fund schools are very complicated. And I'm a little bit concerned, here I'm going to put my business professor hat on, with all the talk of innovation, that it's all about innovation. What we need is more innovation. And to me, I'm a little bit cynical about that for a couple of reasons. First of all, innovation is really risky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Before the iPhone, Apple had the Newton, and that didn't work out particularly well.
Right.
But also, I really think that innovation, when people talk about
dating
innovation,
yourself, Doctor.
I am dating myself a lot, by the way. But also, when we talk about innovation, is it innovation or is it doing the standard things better? And in some of the articles that we read for today, there was something written by somebody from Philadelphia talking about innovation, and there were things like improve instructional quality. Well, that's not really innovative in and of itself. My general sense, and I've always said this whenever I talk about schools, is how well a school is doing in terms of test scores or attainment says as much about the state or the locality or the neighborhood as it does about the school itself. And so we all want him to succeed. It's really important that he succeeds. What I hope the governor does is to think about this appointment in the context of other interventions, including public health interventions, including things like feeding programs, mental health issues, because those are going to be equally important to driving school success.
Good point there. It's interesting. Tom, I want to ask you about that because I want to just add to what Harry said. What he did, Dr. Stewart, in North Philadelphia, he worked with a staff of 5 to provide professional development and data analysis to a network of 22 schools in North Philly, and previously served as a special assistant to the superintendent and director of innovation in the school district of Philadelphia. That's the 8th largest district in the country, by the way. It's a pretty big district. The point Harry's making about innovation, it's easy to get caught up in buzz phrasey stuff, and but you got to get the blocking and tackling right too, don't you?
Yeah,
you just have to get the basics right.
That in itself is innovation, because so many times we just miss the blocking and tackling.
Yes.
We just take it for granted.
That's right.
And it's just like, oh, okay, let's move on to other more exciting things.
That's right.
And the shiny object now is really what are the basics?
That's right.
And when you take a look at those items that Harry had mentioned, as far as that were mentioned by the Philadelphia Citizen, the school innovation includes things like focusing on school culture, making student achievement a priority. Developing instructional quality. Again, they're not mind-blowing things. It's just like, these are the basics. And it's a bit refreshing. I will challenge Harry just a little bit in that I don't think that he needs to, that the new superintendent, that the designee does not need to have had superintendent experience.
Right.
Because he has a lot of folks under him who are really going to be able to, who know New Mexico. And so, that I think is, he has the local team, and now he has a chance to implement his vision.
I had a chance to speak with Ellen Bernstein on Wednesday for our Facebook Live, and we talked about that very thing. The dream team is still in place, so to speak. That's my term, not the governor's. You just need someone at the top, and oftentimes, maybe your organization, others, those are the people doing the work, the real work. The person at the top of it doing the politicking with legislators, they're dealing with all that other stuff. Does that give you comfort that we have this other team in place?
Well, I think the
knows New
person at the
Mexico?
top is important, but let's remember that the previous secretary also didn't have a superintendent, and she wasn't a current superintendent. She was in a program at a university. It's very different.
Right.
I think he brings a lot to it. I'm going to do a little counterpoint to what you said about the fundamentals, specifically instructional quality, not being innovative. I think that could be, again, I'm going to date myself as well, because, the way that we learned was a specific way, right? Classroom instruction. I think the way kids learn today is not the same. And there's just so much more out there that kids, their attention span is much shorter. Their reliance on technology is much higher than ours necessarily, back then at least. And so I think that there are ways to innovate instructional quality and make sure that whatever you're delivering is delivered in a way that they're able to capture and utilize. So I do think that there's ways to innovate in that way. But I think overall, it's an important position. I do think it's important to have had this done at the beginning of
You do?
school.
Okay.
Because it sets the tone for the school year.
Gotcha.
And I think it reassures parents, teachers, as well as the school faculty and superintendents, everybody that look, we have somebody on board. We're going to work with you, and we're going to move forward to accomplish some things.
It's a great challenge. We do all wish him well. He has to succeed. I agree with
Absolutely.
Harry. I mean, we need someone to really kind of get this thing going. It's a team effort as well. So we'll see what happens there. All right, NMIF producer Matt Grubb sat down with the governor this week in the first interview we've had since she fired Karen Trujillo. She says she doesn't regret Ms. Trujillo's hire, but feels that her new pick has a complete vision for success in New Mexico schools and the track record to implement it.